You're a building inspector. That's your job to do your due diligence of finding out whether it is just moisture or whether there is something sinister going on. A house that's 4 years old, particularly last week, where beautiful house, really well presented, absolutely gorgeous. Walked in the bathroom, found one moisture reading right through the back wall, put the thermal camera on it, showed excessive amounts of moisture, went out to the front walls again, checked again, started finding some mold and things like that. Then we went to a corner of the house and actually found that termites were actually starting to get into the house.
So Troy, thank you for joining us today on the Jim's podcast. And you're from Jim's Building Inspections in sunny Queensland, I believe.
Yes, I am. Yeah, that's a beautiful spot of the world.
Looks like a beautiful day behind you, a lot better than Melbourne down here. So what were you doing before Jim's Building Inspections, Troy?
Well, actually, I was a builder. I've always been a builder. Dad was basically my boss from day one when I left school. And from there on in, I lived in New South Wales most of my life. Got to a certain age, in my 40s, and got interested in building inspections. So I started doing it as a part-time gig in Sydney. Then my wife and I bit the bullet around, like everyone did, to cope, got to move north. Did my research first and looked around at some franchises and things like that. And did some quite extensive research and found that Jim's was pretty good. And since then, we've been there, and I've been with Jim's now for about 4.5 years.
And what for you as a builder prompted you to get out or just make that change?
Just because I was getting older in age and the body was, like, I wasn't saying failing, but I was starting to wake up a bit sore as usual. Then I thought to myself, I was getting a bit hard out there with contracts and muck around and finding good trades, to be honest. I'd been a boss of a building company. You got to actually have good trades, and it was getting a bit harder out there. And I just thought, you know what, it's time to move on and keep myself interested in take up full building inspections full time.
And what was it about the Jim's brand? Because there's obviously a couple of different options and different things you probably looked at. So what was it about Jim's in the end? Yeah,
just the reputable brand name of it, the amount of diversity with Jim's, like not just building, everything. And when we did our research, and they said basically, you got some good backing with Jim's, and basically the people that we'll meet up with, the overall structure of Jim's is really good. And like I said, I did do search around other ones, and nothing compared to them at the time when I was looking.
And did you come to Melbourne for the training, or did you do it online?
I had to do it online because of COVID at the time. And it was pretty full on, to be honest. It was quite intense. I being a building background, I thought it was going to be, standards and all that. But actually, the client, talking to clients, having to follow what they want for your gyms to do their inspections, do their training. It is quite extensive. It's not something you can just walk in and think that you're going to be an inspector with gyms. You still got to follow procedures and basically, get up there and get into it.
Because we did the training online, so I remember my team had to organise it. It was an absolute nightmare to organise. So it was because we did find it, if people who did the online training compared to the ones in person had a lower customer service rate. But I had a look at your customer service rating. You got a really good customer service rating, so well done on that. I think it was more just because people found it hard to watch the screen for 8 hours and the 7 hours at a time, as opposed to when you're at training in Melbourne, you're actually in person in the room. It's sort of a bit harder to go anywhere, whereas on the computer, it can be a bit easier to zone off. So it's great to hear how well you've done since the online training, because you would have been one of the first ones to do it back then, and we tried to improve it as we go. We make it a bit better based on all the feedback.
No, I didn't mind it, to be honest.
Good.
And like I said, my background is dealing with a lot of customers at first, and that is first and foremost of your business. Is you're dealing with people. If you think people are just going to walk up and throw money at you, it's not going to happen. You still got to have that customer base, clientele, the feedback too you get, and actually just to basically following up after you do your inspections. That's paramount. Like, you can't just do an inspection, give me a report, and say, ring me if you've got any problems. You've got to do your follow-ups, and with the online training, there's a lot of that reiterating itself. Say, always make sure you do your follow-ups. Make sure you're out with your customers. And like I said, my background was about that, and and it seemed to have transferred in with Jim's, and it's actually working quite well.
Is that a big difference from your point of view, not between Jim's Building Inspections, maybe some other ones? Is that the follow-up and that customer service, going a bit beyond the standard?
Basically, no. Your background is that if you're actually doing your customer service and follow-up, it does relate on, and people tend to notice that, and that basically word of mouth gets around, and that'll just keep consistently working on itself, which is what it's done. It's actually worked quite well. Again, I'll keep saying it. Your client liaison is paramount to doing this.
What are some basic things that maybe you do that is obvious to you but might not be obvious to other people? Because we talk about customer service a lot on the podcast, and it's always a consistent theme of stuff that comes through. But as people would know from maybe dealing with non-Jim's people, it's not as common as what people would think. So maybe what's some customer service standards that you do in your business? Like, just walk us through the whole thing.
Well, see, what I usually do is I actually welcome my customers along to my inspections, so I've been talking through it as I'm doing it. I know sometimes they said it a little bit up, but it's saying that to me, if you're doing your job and you know what you're doing it great, then you can actually walk your customers through your building inspections. Now, if they can't be there and you find something that's concerning, always rely back to them, whether it's a photo, text message, say, look, this is what I found. Give me a call when you get a chance, or get them on FaceTime and actually talk them through what you're finding. Don't leave it till the end of your inspection. Then ring it up. So, by the way, I found this bathroom that's leaking. It's got termites, and here's a picture of it. No, while you're there, showing them why it's actually live is paramount. Whether it's FaceTime, WhatsApp, I've got all the apps you can find, because obviously FaceTime with some phones don't work. Yeah. So WhatsApp I find is quite good. And yeah, basically always reacting like, look, this is what I'm finding. This is not good. This is why I'm concerned about it. And actually tell them exactly what you've got. Don't beat around the bush. Tell them what you find, and yeah, be straight up with them. And people love that. So yeah, that's how I always find working with it. And at the end of it, follow up at the end of it. Like, give it a couple of days after you do your report, and just give a friendly recall and say, hey, how'd you go with the house? Were you successful? Did you follow on with it? Blah, blah, blah. And let's say no, we'll definitely get you with the next one, because it does work. People see that you concerned about what they're buying. You're not just doing an inspection for them to make money.
Yeah, I think you guys as well, because you're the business owner as well. You guys, obviously, it's your business, whereas, some other companies might have their employee doing it, and they're just the care factor's nowhere near as much as you guys.
Yeah, it was like I said, again, your care factor when you talk to your customers, and that'll give you good feedback for one. And two, word of mouth. Like I said, you do one wrong, 100 people know about it. You do one good thing, maybe 2 or 3 people know about it. So if you keep doing consistently, then 2 or 3 people turn into 30, 40, 50 people. And as your testimonials, like, I don't push them, to be honest. I just say, look, if you can, that'd be great. If you're asking, you're showing, I would say, look, I want you to put a testimony, you keep showing someone's face. To me, that's not the way to go about it. Yeah. So there is a testimony there if you want to do it. If you have problems, call me and I'll talk you through it. And yeah, and that's pretty much how it works. Yeah.
And that's great. And I think there's a lot more awareness around the building industry in general now. I think, there's obviously a few big content creators who do a lot of stuff around building inspections. So what's the sort of, are customers becoming, how's the business been? Has it picking up more and more and more because of maybe the awareness that this sort of area is getting, especially the last couple of years?
Yeah, a little bit. People are more savvy these days. They're not just like the normal person who doesn't know about building anymore. People know what's going on. They know what to look for. Well, they know it's basically what's going on out in the real world, because these guys are getting on YouTube and putting all these weird and wonderful videos up. So basically, from them videos, people are pretty much on the know now what they're looking for with a building inspection. And obviously, you do your right thing by showing them, yeah, that's what we look for. But there's other things of the building aspects that they don't know about, which I like to talk them through to it. So it's not just what they see on YouTube and Facebook and all that. There's a whole heap of other things that I like to probably pick up on them and show them the basics. Yeah, it's just a whole heap of things that we go through, yes.
And what are some common problems you're finding in your area? What are some common defects or some common things that homeowners should probably consider or when they get you guys?
Dampness at the moment. A lot of defects with moisture rising damp, especially in Queensland at the moment, and with moisture rising damp termites. There's things like we look for, like pipe penetrations running into a house that people don't usually look for. Grass up against house, things like that we pull on back. These are the little things that, people walk past every day and don't even notice it. And I've had a few houses of late where we've had some grass coming up through some pipes and things like that. You pull the pipe back there. Well, there's a nest there, and you go inside the house, and next thing you know, it's not just in the laundry, it's run right through the bedrooms, things like that. So there's ways to look at things before you actually go into a house, what you're looking for termites. And as everyone knows in Queensland, it is a pretty big thing up here with termites, and you've got to be switched on what you're looking for and where you're looking.
As the actual report, you do it yourself. Do you want to just talk through people about how's the report conducted? So you mentioned you're out there on the site, you get your phone and you FaceTime people. Mm-hmm. Is there an invasive aspect to it, or there's not an invasive, just a visual inspection? How does it all work?
Well, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I like to be a little bit invasive, especially if I'm finding termites. I'm a little bit lucky. I have a electrical fundamental license where I can take the PowerPoint off the wall and put a camera in there and put it in and see what I'm actually looking for and what I'm finding. I don't like punch the holes in people's walls, and particularly they don't like it either. If you do it with care, people will actually want to know what they're finding inside your house. And yeah, there's ways there's a heap of ways you can find termites, but the main thing is starting from externally and working way you through it. Moisture meter readings are paramount too. If I put a moisture meter on the wall, the next thing comes out is a termite tracker. I'll be honest with you, 8 out of 10 times where there's really high moisture in sections, we usually find some type of termite activity. And then we can put out other cameras like invasive thermal cameras, things like that to go through. And like I said, some people just put down there's a high moisture reading in that wall, and there's further inspections. Well, you're a building inspector. That's your job to do your due diligence of finding out whether it is just moisture or whether there is something sinister going on. A house that's 4 years old, particularly last week, where beautiful house, really well presented, absolutely gorgeous. Walked in the bathroom, found high moisture readings right through the back wall, put the thermal camera on it, showed excessive amounts of moisture, went out to the front walls again, checked again, started finding some mold and things like that. Then we went to a corner of the house and actually found that termites were actually starting to get into the house. This is on a 4-year-old home that had a really good termite barrier. But unfortunately, these things are happening more and more often these days, and it's not on the old houses anymore. It's on relatively new houses. I've had steel frame houses that door jams and architraves are getting eaten out. So you really got to make sure you do your due diligence when you're looking for this type of stuff on the pest side.
And when you find this sort of stuff, how do you then deal with the client? Do they, as you bring in other people to try and help them, or how do you help them solve that problem?
Well, sometimes we're a Jim's pest group that we usually try to we're engage relationships with. So we'll get them out there to have do a more invasive inspection. But while I'm there, I like to try and find exactly how far they've gone. I don't try and scare people either. I don't look at, you got termites, your house is going to fall down. That's one of the worst things you can do to someone, whether it's a buyer or the actual owner. So look, we found termites. We're going to do a little bit more research and see how far they've got. And again, termites aren't the end of the world sometimes. Sometimes they'll only eat a door jamb or an architrave or something out. So you can treat them quite easily and pretty much change little bits and pieces of the house, and you'd be done with it. So again, it's how you react to your customers or what you find. You don't walk in and say, oh, no, there's water leaks everywhere, I have to run away. No, we say, water leaks are fine. Let's see where they're coming from. Sometimes it's just a leak and tap, and a leak and tap is an easy fix. Yeah, they can do damage to a shower, but there's other like shower seals that can redo your shower seal. It's not the end of the world when you find these problems. It's how you relate the problem back to the customer and give them ideas of how to fix it, not just, there's termites, see you later, find a pest guy. Work with the groups that actually what you're finding, and work with the groups that you can engage with to actually find and actually find out from them what they've actually found.
Yeah, so I think that's important because someone had their heart set on the street home, and then they'll be hesitant to get the inspection, and they get it. Someone says this, and then all of a sudden it goes for them. So it's good to hear that. Yeah,
like you said, these are people's lives you're playing with. This is not a game where it's not a game at all, but this is not something you take lightly when you're looking at these houses. And you're dealing with $1 million homes sometimes. Now, I did one the other day. It was $15 million for an inspection. Took me 6 hours to go through it. It was relatively pretty good, but did my due diligence, walked away. Now that customer's now put me onto other ones, and I'm doing quite a few of them now at some really good pricings. So yeah, it does work.
If only you could charge your report in conjunction with the house price, that would have been a good gig.
It would have, yeah. I do it on hourly rates. I sit about 4.5 hours on this house, which I was quite much on the ball with. So
yeah,
and it works out. Like I said, obviously too, you got to look at before you even get an inspection. Do you look search on their house? Make sure what you're looking at, you're not overcharging or undercharging. So yeah,
that's a great point. And I was going to say, what other reports or what other inspections do you find yourself doing for clients in Queensland?
Oh, me personally, I do a lot of pool safeties too. So I do my background. I do. If I come across a pool that needs a pool safety, will actually offer that service. So it's again, it's trying to reinvent yourself as you're working. I do asbestos audits and checks, dilapidation depreciations. So all these things do work out, and it's like an on-sell for customers to have these backgrounds and do a little bit more. And people like that. I actually say, Troy just does he does pool safeties, he does dilapidations. If you've got an investment at the moment, probably 15 investment people doing the dilapidation depreciations for them.
Yep,
it does.
Yeah, because I think they don't think you guys can do the depreciation schedule. They think go to an accountant or whatever they do, but you guys can organise that and you can handle it all.
Again, that's just selling yourself and making sure people know what you do. And don't be afraid to talk yourself up. That's all I say to people. If you're good at what you do, talk yourself up. There's no, this guy's a poser. No, you are what you do. If you're good at it, mate, talk yourself up. And you're going to sit back and be quiet. This is where people are going to overrun you.
And man, with the pool safety side of it, is that a mandatory thing in Queensland, or how do you sort of work with that?
No, it's not a mandatory thing as a building inspection, but it just gives me the opportunity. Again, I'll be honest with you, to make more money and offer that another service outside the building and pest inspection.
And asbestos as well. How common is asbestos in Queensland?
Yeah, pretty common depending on the area. But I do a lot of like southeast towards Toowoomba, up that way too. I'd say 70% of your houses are that way asbestos related. And again, because it is asbestos, it's not the end of the world. It depends on what condition it's in. If you get a good Queenslander, what we call them up here, that's been well looked after and asbestos is in good condition, report that it's in good condition. Just don't say, oh, it's asbestos, it's a safety hazard, because that will scare people. If I walk to a house today where the asbestos walls are broken and they're really bad, I just said to them, this is not good. So relate to what you're seeing. Just don't say it's asbestos and run away. Yeah, it's asbestos, you're going to die and all this. It's not the case. People say, oh, if I find a house with asbestos, I'm not going to buy it. So what are you looking at? I'm looking at an old Queenslander. Well, guess what? You're going to come across it in that age. It's just the condition that it's in. And when you explain it to people, they go, oh, okay, so it's not going to kill me. No, it's not. Unless you start doing weird stuff to it. then that's where the potential lies.
And once you identify it, you then get a third party to come in and remove it, or how does that all work?
Well, it depends. If they want to get removed, yes, definitely a third party. Yeah. But we'll do the initial sampling of it. So in other words, I'll take a sample from it, take it to a laboratory. They will tell me exactly what type of asbestos we're dealing with. And basically, we take it back to the customer and say, this is the type of asbestos. Because there are different types out there, which is a whole new ballgame we'll talk about later. But there is a couple of different types of asbestos out there, which you've got to be careful of. And that's where you've got to do your due diligence on. So if you come across what I call the Super 6, which is more your roof sheetings and fencing, we find a lot of it in that. That's stuff that you've got to be really careful with what you're dealing with. And whether it's sealed or non-sealed, if it's not sealed, well, then that is a high risk. If it's sealed, painted, well, then it's very much a low risk. So, yeah.
So when you said different types, that's what, is there just, as you said, is there those fence sheets and stuff, they're way more high risk than something, as you said, is sealed, or you want to run through that a bit?
Because they're on ceilings, they're not, on a roof where it's not sealed, people tend to get up there on the ladder, put their hands on it, and that's putting yourself into a high risk.
Yeah.
And if you've got a fence that's not sealed, obviously you walk past it every day, that's putting yourself into a high risk. Now, if it is painted, encapsulated and sealed, it's still a risk, but it's very much lower risk of coming in contact with it. With walls that are painted or things like that, that's fine. But if they're cracked or chipped or marked, it starts to become friable, which is very dangerous. And that's when you've got more likely to come in contact with it. But there is ways of fixing it and sealing it. But yeah, it depends on how bad it is. Sometimes it's to a point where it needs to be removed. It's just there's no bugs. But sometimes there's you can repair it. Minor repairs, you can't actually do big repairs on asbestos with the laws. You can do minor repairs and you should be safe if it's done properly by a professional. I'd always recommend a professional. I'd never ever say do it yourself. It's just not, the risk is not worth it. So yeah.
And with your reports, I know a little bit about this, but how detailed are your reports? Because I know there's obviously different standards between companies and stuff. I've spoken to a few JBI guys before, and do you want to just outline for people the detail that you put into yours?
Well, details when it comes from building and pests. So first thing you want to know is, one, whether it has as a top the physical barrier or a chemical barrier, when it was installed, whether it's still up to date, all that is, and basically from there, you just want to basically let them know exactly what you're dealing with when it comes to your termite section of a house. So in other words, you just don't walk up and say, it's got a physical barrier, that's it. You need to know exactly what you're dealing with when it comes to your termite protection notices in the house, because it is detrimental to a house, especially in Queensland. I've seen reports where it says there's no termite activity. To me, that doesn't cut it. They need to know if it is highly conducive, whether it's got a physical barrier or a durable notice to tell me exactly what type of barriers. Them things are paramount to a house. You need to know exactly what they're dealing with.
And you guys I know you guys take thousands and thousands and thousands of photos for these reports.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to point out for people that you guys go to a massive effort to make it really easy for someone to understand. Like you mentioned before, which you do the on-site stuff, which I think is really fantastic, and you FaceTime in sometimes if you can't be there. But I think the actual report as well, I know you guys put a lot of effort into making them really easy to understand to the layperson.
Yeah, you got to try and look at it as in, try and put it in layman terms. You don't want to give them a report with all the codes and regulations and things like that, because people find that boring. Stick to the basics, stick to the things that they're going to know. Yeah, sure, you're going to have to put some type of regulations in there at some point when it comes to pests and building, but keep it simple. Try and keep it simple. I know it sounds bad, but you got to dumb it down to a point where you still get your point across of what the damage is or what the issues are, but you're not trying to make it to a point where they're looking at something like you're talking to like a solicitor and they're like, we don't open it down on. And like I said, I'll actually sit there and I'll talk through my reports with my customers. If it takes me 15 minutes or an hour to talk through a customer, at least they know exactly what they're dealing with. They're not looking at a report, scratching their head, walking away, go, well, I've got half of it. The other half is Chinese or whatever to me. different language.
Yeah.
So don't like it with the report. And sometimes my reports can be up to 50 to 70 pages, depending on how bad the house is. So again, I don't like the old style where they used to do the tick and flicks. I've never done it, never will. That's just basically going through and doing a checklist. That's not a building a pest. So there's a lot of companies out there at the moment who are still doing it, and I will strongly recommend, if that's what you're getting, either get your money back or go somewhere where either it's gyms. Obviously, we'd like to come to us because we're pretty good at what we do. But I would just tell people in general to stay away from your tick and flicks because they're just not cutting it to today's market. With the technology you got, you shouldn't be doing tick and flicks. It's just wrong.
Absolutely. And there's a reason why gyms are the biggest in the country. It's because of the reputation and obviously people, know what they're doing in the brand. And it's great because I've interviewed a lot of the JBI guys. Yeah, the amount of knowledge you guys have, all former builders, the amount of expertise and the detail you put into a report is far beyond that of some other companies which I've known about or we've seen some reports from as well. So you guys do a great job. And is this all done on the Gyms app or how do you do it? Will you walk around the iPad or how do you do it all?
No, I don't do. Well, we obviously use the iPad when we finish. We usually walk around it. Notepads, cameras, and we just do a little bit of audio depending on what we're finding. But then we'll take it back, then we'll download it to our iPads and we'll go through it step by step to make sure that we're not missing anything. I think that's my way of doing it. Everyone's a little bit different to what they do, but that's why I do it. I like to make sure I write my notes down, I date it, time it, all that type of stuff, so we know exactly what you're talking about and where it was found and what you're finding. Again, that's paramount for what you do for our job. And basically, too, with our reports, if you're not sure about something, I don't know how many guys are in gyms building brand now at the moment with inspections, bounce off each other. I don't know everything. And I've got a franchisee that's obviously just retired. I used to ring him a few times, sometimes 9 o'clock at night and say, hey, Dave, what do you think about this? What would you brought up to this? So don't think that you know everything when it comes to your building and pest. Always rely on people. And there are parts of the apps where they can feed through their findings and you can relay that into yours. And again, it's just networking within your own group and showing what people do know. There's things I've picked up since I've joined gyms, which, never thought about. And that's things that you need to rely on with me doing reports and make sure, if you think you know everything when you come into this game, you're going to fail. You need to actually rely on other people or ask questions and make sure, what you're doing is right. And
it's a great point, Troy, because you've got, as you said, 170 roughly franchisees in Australia and I think well too in New Zealand. And there's the amount of knowledge you guys have.
Yeah,
where you would have seen everything. So it's just that, and you get access to it. The customer gets access to you, who has access to all these other people. So it's a massive amount of knowledge you guys have access to.
Yeah, well, so I've had other franchisors ring me and ask me questions about pests and building and things like that. And again, 90% of the times I can answer their questions. And if I don't, well, I say, this guy's actually really good at this type of stuff. Talk to him and bounce it off him. And like I said, it's a group. It's a network group within itself. And Jim's is really good at that.
It's great. It's great to hear. And how's the support been as well with doing because you would have been in the business before and stuff. So how's the support been? I know your franchisor was just retired. I think just left it. Yeah.
Bugger. But it's second to none. Like I said, we really rely on each other. Sometimes there's things that go on outside the build that we need to talk about. Like, I found this customer's worried about this. What do you think about this, Troy? Well, look, mate, give me a look. We send it through and go, yeah, no, that's fine. You've wrote everything with them. You've covered yourself, blah, 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 blah. And that type of stuff you won't get that with anyone else. And like I said, I've checked out other groups before I joined gyms, and there's quite a few of them out there now. It wasn't what I was on. There's only 2 or 3. And it's the amount of money that is spent on this app to get it to where it is today is second to none. And there's, as I've heard of late, they're actually still looking at doing some more upgrades to the app to make it even better. Quickly now, AI's come on and things like that. It's going to be a slow process, but I think the app it's going to go north. It's going to keep going better as the days and years go on. So, yeah.
Paul does put a lot of money in it. Don't worry about that. He spends a lot of money on that for sure for you guys.
Yeah, so I heard last time they spent nearly $1 million on the app.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy. Like we haven't fathom that, but it is when I open that app and I can start doing my reports. And I don't even think about it because everything's there. And we have our own things. We can put our own spin off on things. But I always say too, if you got to put your own spin off on things, make sure you are actually putting in what is actually the law. I've seen it a few, well, not of ours, but of late, where they're putting in their own spins. It just doesn't make sense, and it's not actually in line with what the contract or standards say, NCC or Australian standards are. So again, always rely on other people and rely heavily on people that have been in the industry for a long time and they can back you up. So,
and I was going to say, how many reports do you roughly do a week? How much are you roughly getting through?
I average 3. I like to do 3 a day. That's I don't like to go any more than that. But sometimes of late I've been up to doing 4, but that's usually with a unit or something like that. If you're doing 4 houses, well then you're actually you're gonna be really careful what you do. If they're brand new 4-bedroom homes and they're within a couple of years old, you can get away doing 4. But comfortably 3 is a really good. I find it a really good medium for me, and I find that I can get some quite comfortable and still have a life.
Well, that's why other question. Are you happy with the lifestyle of the business doing this?
Look, I am now, but when I first started, like I was working till probably sometimes 11, 12 o'clock at night each night to get some reports out because I was new at it with gyms, and that you got to put the hard yards in. There's no magical trick of getting around this and thinking that we'll join gyms to build a straight work, get your money. That's not going to happen. You still got to go out there and market yourself. You got the backing of gyms to always back you up, but you always got to go out there and market yourself. And I'm just lucky I've got a good wife that does a lot of background work for me with bookings and doing some background paperwork. So if you've got a good team behind you, it actually does work quite well for you. But again, at first, it took me at least 2.5 years to a point where I'm at now where I can actually sit down and talk to you on a Friday afternoon, go and jump in the boat and go a bit of fishing, go out and jump on the bike and go for a ride and things like that. Yeah, I've got that lifestyle now where I can do it. And again, if I was outside trying to do this on my own, I'd probably be still struggling. So group was pretty good.
I love hearing what you just said then about the hard work at the start, because I think you're right. We obviously we work and do what we do. Sometimes people think it's a really easy thing. As you said, you're rocking into gyms and you get 50 leads on your first day, and it's pretty easy. But as you said, it's a lot of hard work. So when you say market yourself, was it just a matter of can you understand that for some franchisees? A lot of franchisees, not in JBI because you guys get it, and some other divisions, they really struggle to market themselves. They sort of sometimes want the approach where they just want 20 leads a day or 10 leads a day, and that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. So when you talk about market yourself, do you just tell maybe newer franchisees or newer business owners how you went and did it?
Yeah, I joined a BNI group when I first joined. Worked really well for me. And again, I didn't go there expectations of having 50 leads a day. Set yourself a goal what you can actually achieve. Don't set yourself a goal to see why you're not going to achieve, because you will burn out or you will fail. So set yourself a realistic goal. Always have that goal set in stone and make sure you follow it to the T. And with your BNI groups, again, promote yourself. Brag about yourself. Tell me how good you are, what you do. Now, I do this, I do all that. And when you do come across some guys, again, give them your pamphlet. Show them the gym's pamphlet and write on that pamphlet with Dave and Helen that came out with when I was first joined. It's got everything on there what you do. And it tells you, your local inspector. It's really good that gyms have come up with this little pamphlet that they give you. And people like to read it. They will read it and have a look at that and go, like I said. And when you come across your conveyances, your real estates and that, be professional, talk clearly, talk slowly, and show them what you're actually about. Give them a chance. They say they do a free inspection. I'll be honest, I've never done a free inspection. Too tight. But I'll give you one for half price. And if you like it, great. If not, I'll walk away. And them half inspections I've done for I know it sounds bad, but I did them for $280 back in the day. I'm actually making $500-$600 a week out of them now.
Yeah.
And they don't even blink an eyelid. I've got ones I've actually done $800-$900, and they did not blink an eyelid. But I started off at $280 for the first maybe half a dozen inspections. Now, I was at a point where I was lucky enough to do that, but I said I gave them like a month's worth of that. And after that month, I said, no more. This is what I'm worth. Now, I've had a few that did walk away, but the ones that stayed, I'm actually happy to have them on board and still work for them to this day. 4.5 years later, they're still ringing me at 10 o'clock at night booking inspections.
Oh, wow.
So, it does, a lot of hard work has to be done. There's no magic trick of joining gyms or any other group that you think they're going to walk in and throw money at you and you're going to have this really big, successful business and it's all going to be sitting back and wait for gyms to make phone calls where that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And I was going to say as well, the BNI, because BNI, JBI guys, obviously use BNI really well. Just explain a bit, how much work do you reckon BNI has generated for you over the years? Because are you still in the BNI as well?
No, I'm not in the BNI
not anymore. Yeah,
anymore. And I'm self-sufficient now, but I still turn off leads every now and then. That's what I call a top up.
Yeah.
But if you're starting off, you've got to make sure you don't just go to one BNI and stick with that BNI. Do a couple of them. Go to 3 or 4 of them. Go sit down, have breakfast with 3 or 4 of them. Find out what they're about. See who's in the group. see what's going to benefit you. I went to 6 before I found one, before I actually was comfortable. And from that, when I did find out that it suited me, I was, within the first month, I was making quite a few $1,000s just for that I group, plus whatever James was throwing at me, plus whatever word of mouth I was getting. So it did translate with it. It didn't translate quickly, but it gradually grew. But the BNI was detrimental to that start. Where joining that group was, highly recommend it with people, but please make sure you do your research before you just join one.
No, it's a good point, because I think people get put off by it, because if you never experienced it before, it can be quite different. You got to do your speech for 10 minutes and you got to say who you referred, all these different things, and it can be quite. And as you said, people just give up sometimes after the first one because they didn't get along with some of the people there, and it can be quite awkward if you're a bit more introverted as well. So it's good to hear that you got to you persisted, you tried multiple ones.
Yeah, well, see, I'm not afraid of talking up. So in this game, when you first set off your own business, you've got to be able to talk yourself up. I keep saying, be confident, talk yourself. People see that, and they think, oh, this guy really knows his stuff. He's really confident what he does. We'll give him a go. You're sitting back, he's my code, my building inspector, and I do a pretty good job. They're going to walk away from you. They look, I'm Troy, I'm a building inspector. I love my job. I'm passionate what I do. Here's my card. If you need any questions, please ring out anytime. I'm always available. If you've got any questions, if you've got a house that you're coming across and you're not sure about, send me a photo of it and I'll have a look at it and I'll tell you what I can find from what I'm looking at from photos and go from there. I had a couple of buyers that sent me some photos. I said, termite damage strike. Yeah, it is. How bad is it? I said, I can't tell from a photo, but I can definitely tell you it's termite damage. And he goes, can you book us in to come out and have a look at it? Yeah, no worries. And that's how it works. I don't know, I'm not sure. That's when they start to get like, this guy's really, not sure about himself or what he's doing.
For sure. And what would you sort of say to someone maybe looking at hearing your story or thinking, geez, I like the sound of that? What would you sort of say to them? Maybe some questions to ask or things to do, or what would you sort of advise them?
When you actually go, like if you're buying a house and you're a first time buyer, don't be afraid to ask what qualifications they've got. As a like I'm talking on the other side of the fence now. So if you're a new home buyer, first off, who are they? Are they reputable? Check them out. Do your research on the people who are doing your building inspections for you. Now, with GEMS, we're all open. All our details are there, and that's a part of the duty which is all right. You can't hide anything. So if you've got nothing to hide, it's really good. So always do your due diligence on who you're hiring. And basically, with a new house or, know what's the year of the house, what you're looking at. So the 1970s house, you probably will come across some renovation works and some asbestos and things like that. So do your research on your background on what you're actually looking for and licenses. Definitely licenses because, there's a couple of groups out there at the moment, and I'm not going to name names, but they're working on the umbrella of a license, and to me, that's very dangerous. So they're not.
So let's just point that out for people. So they had one license, and then they have multiple people working underneath that who aren't qualified.
Yep, using that license. They've come back. I've noticed some of them have come back as corps. They've now got interested. I can be a building inspector. I can see what they're doing. They go and do a 4-week course, and they can work on this under umbrella license, and it's dangerous. And Jim's has had a big push on trying to get these guys exposed and not shut them down, but let people know that these guys aren't building inspectors. These guys are. This one guy holds a license, and everyone's working under him. Yeah, there's some cleaners. I've seen cleaners become building inspectors under this group. I've seen trucks. I've seen people just don't have that background. Scary. And these guys are out there making just as much money as I am, but not as in charging people the money, have no idea what they're talking about. I'm sorry, but it's out there. It's happening.
Yeah. I think people need, as you said, people need to check the license. And I think, not being a builder, I'm not stereotyping that no one can be a good building inspector who's not a builder, but I think not being a builder is always a big sort of, make sure you check into them before you use them.
But 100%, like I said, always do your background checks before you hire anyone. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Troy, thank you for joining us today. I really enjoyed the chat. We provided a heap of good information. Is there anything else you want to say that I didn't ask you about, or any questions, anything you want to plug? Or
No, that's fine. I think we've pretty much covered everything. So, yeah.
Well, thanks to Helen in the background for coaching as well. I should have given you the little earpiece that I have on the TVs and news feeds. I
actually got Helen and my wife sitting there because they're
watching you doing it. It's a precious on.
Yeah, like I said, mate, my wife's a marketing background, so she helps. I've been pretty blessed to have my wife in my background, helping me out with my business on the technical side of bookings and things like that. because without, I'll be honest, without them, I'd probably be pretty much lost. And it's a, yeah,
I think it's a quite common thing in gyms. I interview a lot of franchisees, and it's always most of the time it's a husband and wife or it's always a team effort. It's never in isolation.
Yeah, one of the things she might do is come out and hold a ladder for me, which I understand. No, so her background with the marketing, it does help. And like I said, and if you haven't got, that's one thing I'll ask.
Yeah.
If you've got someone who does marketing for you, who doesn't do your paperwork, reach out to some of your franchisors that may have someone who does it for you, your bookkeeping and things like that. I'm blessed and lucky enough to have that. But some people out there who can go under, just for the simple fact is they can't keep up their bookings or their taxes or their paperwork. And under gyms, like I said, I was fortunate to have a wife, and I had Helen and Dave. Mate, even there's some things that my wife didn't know. We'd ring them at 10 o'clock at night and say, Helen, we're stuck, we've got this account, we're not sure what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And they talk us through it. So have someone in your background when it comes to your bookkeeping side of things. It does free up a lot to do. I concentrate on my inspections. I don't care about the bookwork. I don't care about even payments. She does. They look after all that for me. So things like that. If you haven't got the background to talk with your wives, please reach out to some gyms, accountants, and that they're pretty good.
Absolutely. You know, we do make a point of it now. For a lot of divisions, actually, we include bookkeeping for the first 6 months just as a mandatory thing, because it's cup of coffee a day, and they don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. And as you said, it can bring a lot of people unstuck who don't get that right at the start. It's very hard to fix 6 months of you down the track.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If I didn't have them in the background, I don't know where I'd be today. I think I'd be a mess in the corner somewhere, opposite side of things. But just like I said, it just frees my mind to do what I do best.
Yeah.
Else, it's just up to the wives that have to chase the money up.
So it's always a partnership in gyms. I as I said, I interview a lot of people, and it's always great to meet the husband and wife teams. It's a really big part of gyms, and sometimes the kids are even involved as well, depending on the business. Yeah,
the daughter, she's IT expert. So if the computer crashes, we get her out to fix it. Or the bedroom, come out and fix the computer. I know what's going on with it.
That's good to see. We'll try to let you get into it. It looks like a great weather for a beer, a coffee, a wine, whatever you drink, but it looks like a great day there. And thank you for joining us today on the Gyms podcast. Loads of good information. We really appreciate you taking the time to do it.
Thanks for the time.
No, thanks, Troy. See you, mate.
Thank you for listening to the episode of the Gyms podcast. If you want to learn more about the Gyms Group, head to gyms.net or call us on 131 546 Australia or 0800 454 654 New Zealand. And if you did like the episode as well, please make sure you leave a review or a comment or a thumbs up or a comment on the video as well. We appreciate your support. And until next episode, we hope you have a great week.